Hope the sun is shining. Hope the birds are singing. Trying something a little bit new today. I'm going to take you through this little Twitter X feed over here. Get your guys' opinion. I know the Super Bowl's going on. Hope you guys are all checking some things out. But I just want to take you on a scroll through my feed. Maybe you get a little look into what I'm thinking about. First off, start off with a little nature and animals. Poor little monkey right here. Which one's the mom? Which one's the dad? There's some interesting things going on out there today. I follow this girl Sovi right here. She's got some pretty interesting stuff. She's got this little tidbit about Sesame Street turning into Skid Row after PBS losing its funding. I know you guys can't hear the sound over there, but I'm just going to give it some commentary when we walk through. There's something really interesting down here that I want you guys to check out. I know lots of people are following these Epstein files, but there's sort of this interesting thing that I see popping up. Here it is right here. Can you guys see this online? I've noticed, at least in my feed and a lot of other feeds, that we're sort of seeing, with all this chaos and with all of this incredible stuff coming out, I'm starting to see this throwback to Ted Kaczynski over here. I'd love to get your guys' opinions on this, see what you guys think. Let's check this one out right here. So Mel at Village Crazy Lady, you guys should all check her out. She says Ted Kaczynski kicked off his last bombing spree by sending this guy and one Charles Epstein mail bombs in the same weekend. The article says in 1993, after a 6-year break, Kaczynski mailed a bomb to the home of Charles Epstein from the University of California, San Francisco. Epstein lost several fingers upon opening this package. On the same weekend, Kaczynski mailed one to David Geltner. Apparently, this guy is a professor at Yale University. And, it's interesting to look back at some of the incredible times in the United States and see these connections. I'm not sure if people are making these connections, if it's sort of like a confirmation bias or if there's some real meat to it right here. But it is pretty interesting to see whom the Ted Kaczynski was sort of targeting and to see those same people in the headlines today via the Epstein files. Apparently this guy was a science professor at Yale. There's a picture of him there. Pretty interesting to see that. What are people saying in the comments? Here's an interesting one too from the same guy. This one comes to us from Kaczynski too. He says, imagine a society that subjects people to conditions that make them terribly unhappy, then gives them the drugs to take away their unhappiness. Science fiction? It is already happening to some extent in our own society. Instead of removing the conditions that make people depressed, modern society gives them antidepressant drugs. In effect, antidepressants are a means of modifying an individual's internal state in such a way as to enable him to tolerate social conditions that he would otherwise find intolerable. Interesting, right? Looks like my thing shut down over here. Let's see what else we got coming on. Okay, so you guys can still see me. It looks like my studio kind of chimed out there for a minute. Let's get back and I'll see if I can find some other stuff. Interesting. So these are some more of those files. This is another piece from Kaczynski. Interesting to see. Here's an interesting video. Top 10 universities ranked by number of mentions in the Epstein files. Arizona State. Look at these guys chiming in at number 1. Cal, Northwestern. Interesting. I would have thought some of the bigger ones would have been at the top there. Let's go back and refresh this feed and see what else we got in here. Oh, we got our friend Elon Musk chiming in over here. Elon Musk says, between Diddy and Epstein, there's probably several thousand hours of footage here. Interesting. Let's check out let's refresh the post and see what we got. Luke Combs, like he's coming in concert. Anybody a friend of his? Go check him out over there. Who do we got this guy? Todd Blanche. You guys following this guy? He's concluded that there isn't sufficient evidence in the Epstein files to prosecute anyone. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? like it's pretty interesting to. And look, we should all be mindful that there's probably way more information out there that we don't know. But it definitely seems like a cover up to me. I mean, it seems like there's ample evidence out there. It almost seems like the people in charge are covering up for the criminals. I mean, that's I don't know. Again, I'm a retired truck driver, but I'll tell you what, from where I sit, it looks pretty obvious that the people in positions of authority are trying to cover up some things. Okay, so here's a new one for you guys if you're following around. This girl right here, she's come out. Her name is Karnia, and she is saying that she is the wife of Jeffrey Epstein. She's also claiming his innocence. She's pretty much blocked everybody from responding to her on X unless they're like nice or kind or whatever. But she's coming out and defending Jeffrey Epstein, saying that, oh, he was not a monster. He infiltrated these crazy sort of satanic people or whatever, and he was actually a good guy. So I don't know. But you'll probably see more of her in the news. So keep your eye out for her right there. Another post out about Ted Kaczynski right there. I'm seeing a lot of that coming through the feed. Pretty interesting. JD Vance is not in the files. Okay. Do not quote Epstein lore to me. Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, the former senator. I'm having a hard time trying to care if either of these teams win the Super Bowl today. Is anybody watching the Super Bowl out there? It seems like a thing of the past, really. You know, I guess it is a pretty good distraction if you're into it, though. I think the New England Patriots are favored by 4. Not exactly sure. Let's see what else is going on here. Mr. Obvious, what does he say? He says, most of the rich, corrupt elites think they cannot be touched. Just let that fact rattle around in your mind. I've said nothing wrong. Good old Brett Weinstein, what's he saying? He says, we are discovering why the world is so messed up. Not exactly how, though we know lots more than we did 2 weeks ago. And not the full extent. We'll probably never know that. But the Epstein files are revealing how interconnected and ubiquitous the rot actually is. Incredible. This girl's pretty good too. If you get a chance, she's got some funny stuff. She says, we need to bring back dueling and public executions. The parasite class is too cocky. Interesting. There's another couple posts I wanted you guys to see. Good old Owen Schroyer and Bill Ackman going at it. I'm not too sure what happened there. What are you guys' thoughts on that? You guys got any thoughts on the whole Charlie Kirk? I know Candace Owens has been throwing out some different theories about what happened out there. Let's see. Chris Martinson. He says, that is exactly what I'm not suggesting. Interesting. This one comes to us from Chris Martinson. He says, the FBI had sex tapes. Oh, that's pretty interesting there. Let's see. Good old Ryan Dawson over here. He's laughing at this one. Let me see if I can bring some stuff over here. Here's another area that I'm kind of interested in. Let's see. Not those ones. Let's come over here. Let's go back to this top page. Let's see what we got coming up at the top over here. Let's show some new posts. Man, I don't know about you guys. My feed is just filled with all of the Epstein stuff. SpaceX hiring engineers in Austin and Seattle to develop AI satellites and space data centers. All the engineers out there, you might want to take a shot out to Austin, maybe Seattle. Pick up one of these space data center jobs. Become a millionaire for life. Seems like that is the future, right? I don't know. There's a lot of people talking about Claude coding. You guys seen all that stuff coming about Claude coding going to take the jobs of all these coders? Let's see who else we got over here. My Funny Valentine. Look, Kenny G. Getting crazy with it. Optimus will help colony on Mars before humans arrive there. Yeah, did you guys see that? Did you guys see that Elon stopped making, I think, the Model S and the Model Y, and he's just going to focus on these Optimus robots? He said it's going to be the number one selling product in the history of mankind. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I think we get technology wrong quite a bit. Um, I read an article yesterday that spoke about the, those cash machines. When you go to like the liquor store, or you go to Costco, wherever you go to, there's those little self checkouts, Walmart, Whole Foods. I read an article that said they were losing so much money from theft that they're starting to get rid of those machines, which is interesting because they went to those machines to try to not have to pay benefits and sick days and employees and insurance and all that stuff. So it's interesting to get to see that thing kind of whipsaw back and all those machines being pulled out. They must be losing a lot of money in theft if they're willing to go back to people over there. Look at these guys. All right. Okay, let's go back to the top of the feed. See what we can get here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm just trying something new to see what I thought I'd try this whole streaming thing out. I'm gonna be checking. I usually do some research over here to figure out topics of the day or who to invite on the show, but I figured I'd just kind of do my research with you guys and see. This guy Jordan Crowder's pretty good. Humans are cargo cult. Thousands of years ago, advanced beings visited Earth, as they often do, and humans perceived them as gods and formed religions around them. That's understandable given the time and intelligence level. It's not understandable anymore. Interesting to think. I had some thoughts on this. When we talk about disclosure and aliens, doesn't it kind of seem like maybe we're the aliens? There's the there's a big paradox called the Fermi's paradox, and that I'll butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, if aliens are out there, where are they at? How come we haven't seen them? But what if they're right here next to us? What if they're right there in the mirror when you look? When you look at so many different cultures and so many different ways of different ethnicities moving through this world, you could, and it's right there in the terminology. We call people aliens all the time, whether they're illegal aliens or, people that cross borders are aliens. So that term kind of gets thrown around a little bit. And it doesn't take too much imagination to read through history and kind of see like, wow, the same way that giant ships sailed over the ocean and invaded different parts of the world. It sounds like the same thing could happen from space or has happened from space. Velikovsky, if you guys are, for all my reader friends out there, Emmanuel Velikovsky's got some really great insight into this idea of aliens that I think it sort of ties in with Zachariah Sitchin's work. So for my readers out there, Zachary Sitchin and Velikovsky, check them out. You read those two books, it'll take you down a rabbit hole. But if you got some spare time, I recommend checking out those two. Which movie you think have the most wasted plot potential? This guy said Ernest Goes to Camp. I remember that movie. Let's see, what else we got over here? Name something the USA does better than any other country. All right, you guys, let's check this out. Name something the USA does better than any other country. Let's see what they say. Protecting Epstein clients. That's pretty funny. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. Being a laughing stock, military force like no other. I'd say I would have to agree with probably both of those things so far. Letting their enemies inside, elect an imbecile for president. These are things the Americans or the USA does better than anybody. There's our good friend Netanyahu. Uh, let's see. Freedom, it's flawed, but still better than any other country. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, unless you've spent significant time in lots of other countries, I think we're all subject to the propaganda that our country puts out there. Hamburgers, no lies detected. This guy says your national anthem is an absolute banger. Marketing. We are pretty good at marketing. We are pretty good at propaganda. In fact, I was thinking about this yesterday. It seems to me like some of the best artists we have in the world that really understand how to use images and language and moving pictures, they sort of found their way into advertising, right? I guess that's where the money's at. But sometimes I wonder if we didn't have such a robust marketing department, might we have the greatest artists in the world out there? There we go. I got the Constitution up there. That's what people are saying. What else do we got? Hair metal. Remember heavy metal? Like what happened to the music? My I got some friends in my family that play the guitar and they're big fans of like the metal. You could say that I don't know, like if I listen to some of the some of the great albums, you got to think that heavy metal's up there. Some of the most creative. If you just see somebody like Dave Mustaine on the guitar or some of these incredible guitarists that were just in these big bands, man, they were amazing. We should try to probably get back to some more metal. Yeah. See, I don't know about you guys, but this is just in every one of my feeds is these Epstein files. It doesn't matter what they're talking about, but it's everywhere. I don't think this is dying anytime soon. Let's go back and find a new post to check out over here. Let's see what we got. Okay, let's take it to the top here. Let's refresh this and see what we got. Come over here to this side. This girl's pretty cool too. This girl Anna, she's sort of I would say she's into transhumanism a little bit. You should give her a follow if you're on X, but it talks a lot about living forever, and I don't really agree with that, in my opinion. I think that's a waste of time. I think you are supposed to live your life to the fullest, and that dying is part of the ride. And all these people talking about living forever, it just seems like a giant industry to me. It just seems like tons of people trying to sell you a subscription model to forever. So I engage with them sometimes, but it's I don't know, it kind of makes me a little sick to my stomach to see people like that. A lot of counter protesters showed up and deliberately tried to blend with the normal protesters. That's an interesting move, right? Here in California, no matter where you are, there's all these protests. And my personal belief is that I love to see people in the streets. I think that that's a healthy dose of the human spirit, regardless of what side you're on. I'd like to see people you know, getting motivated and getting out there and doing something. In this particular instance, there's people that brought opposite signs to the protest and trying to blend in a little bit. So, interesting technique. Who do you think got Guthrie? You know what? I'm not too sure. I haven't been following this story. You guys been following this story? Um, the girl that got kidnapped. I don't know too much about it. Maybe you can let me know in the comments over here what you guys think. Let me shift over and see if there's anybody in this comment section saying anything. Who else do we got over here? Let's check it back out. Shout out to Twitch. What's up, people on Twitch? Thanks for hanging out with us. Shout out to the people on YouTube over there. Super stoked you guys are hanging with us today. This guy's 0 Hour. This guy, you should check him out and follow him. He's been really dropping some, he's sort of the insurgent that cracked the code in Minnesota out there. And he was able to try to get some of the license plate readers and sort of infiltrate the coup or the Somali fraud, the Tim Walz fraud over there. So if you guys want to figure out or keep your ear to the ground, this guy's 0 Hour's got some really good stuff, and it's interesting. Let's see. Andrew Tate. There's everybody's favorite Andrew Tate. What's he saying? He says, Intel agencies keep sending beautiful women to me, and they can't stand. I don't know, man. What you guys take on Tate? I'll give you my take on billionaires, man. Like I don't pretend to know. Whether you're Andrew Tate, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, even Rogan. What must it be like to reach escape velocity? What must it be like to have so much money that everybody around you wants something from you? I would imagine that it fundamentally changes the lens through which you see the world. It fundamentally changes your relationship with all, I would change all your relationships. Probably for the worse, I would imagine. Like, yeah, you have freedom to do a lot more things, but what's it like when you can't go out and everybody wants something from you and everybody sees you as a caricature? I would imagine you would get pretty cynical pretty fast. But I don't got to worry about that because I will probably never know. Wouldn't it be funny if Bad Bunny got arrested and deported this morning? He's American, Tim Pool says. Yeah, it's an interesting time, huh? It's when we talk about the Super Bowl, um, interesting to see. Super Bowl's in San Francisco this year. You got Bad Bunny headlining. You have all these ICE protests out there. So it'll be interesting to see if there's something that comes of it. It seems like it's kind of coming to the head right there. Benjamin Connor, what's this guy saying? To help make sense of seemingly bizarre connections between Jeffrey Epstein and Ted Kaczynski, Lutz Dambeck's remarkable documentary, Das Netz, is absolutely essential viewing. The internet as fundamentally a weapons system. John Brockman, intellectual enabler of the 60s, counterculture as test bed psyop. The Macy's conferences and Frankfurt School, social engineering, Esalen, MIT, the emerging Internet of Bodies, Internet of Everything for potentially total cybernetic control, our planet turned into a mixed reality Sims game to be played by the likes of Epstein and his pals. That looks like a pretty interesting documentary right there. Let's see if there's a... there's only a few comments on there. Let's check it out and see what he says. I haven't seen this documentary. Let's go back and check out the whole post. See what he says. Okay. So there's a link on there. If you guys are watching, you could check it out. John Bronkman, you say. Decided to go a little deeper today on John Bronkman, particularly after hearing at Jason name drop him against his connection to Edge and Epstein. Interesting. This guy Jason from the All In podcast, I don't know too much about him. I don't really listen to that podcast. But I do know that him and Palmer Luckey are kind of going at it. Palmer Luckey, he was the guy that created Oculus and now runs his own sort of defense contractor unit. He was on Rogan not too long ago. Brilliant young guy. And he's got some interesting ideas, but those two have kind of been going at it. Merry Pranksters, Foster the Prankster. Here's an interesting thing. I would love to learn more about the new Merry Pranksters. Wow. Interesting to check out there. Let's see if I can get you guys some more news over here for the day before you start enjoying that Super Bowl out there. Let's see what we got. Good old Tim Dillon. Lionel says, when this is the most lucid voice on the topic, this gives you an indication of where we are today. What does it mean when Tim Dillon is like the most listened to voice out there? It's always the comedians, right? It's always the comedians. Yeah. Are you guys watching? Here's another one too. Like if you guys aren't tuned into this guy, Professor Jiang. I don't know, could be a spy for all I know, but he really does have some pretty interesting talks. If you guys get a chance, check him out. He's got a How Modernism Ruined Everything, Consumerism is the perfection of slavery, Secret History. He's got some cool stuff out there. If you like the Y-Files, I think you would like this guy. All right, let's keep checking him out over here. All right. Existence is a scam made up by philosophers to sell more philosophy. That's pretty funny. All right. What's going on here? Oh, man, so much violence. I don't want to watch that. Let's see. Good old Kid Rock hanging out over there. Governor Dill. Okay, here's an interesting one. Have you guys seen this story? So some of the skiers, I guess the skiing team that is currently at the Winter Olympics came out, and a lot of them were saying some things about the problems in America, about them not being happy here, and a lot of people on X are coming out and saying, "Look, man, you're wearing that flag on your shoulder. Maybe you should be a little bit more thankful for all the opportunities you have." I saw some people pointing out how many of these skiers that are, you know, sort of being the voice or at least expressing their opinions about America came from really, really wealthy families. And so they sort of have this skewed view. I'm kind of torn on it because, you know, I think that the best answer, if you're going to be an Olympian and you're going to represent the country that you are participating for and representing, you should say that you're proud to live in that country. Or at least, at the very least, you should say, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here to represent lots of good people where I live. I think that that's the answer. You should be thankful for the position you're in. However, in the United States, you do have the freedom of speech. So, maybe them getting to exercise their freedom of speech is a flex in some ways. What do you guys think? I'll probably lean more towards you should be grateful for the opportunities you have in life. So, David Sirota. This guy's interesting. If you get a chance, check him out. He talks about being on X and how it just messes with your mind. Like you should spend less time on social media. He's got some good stuff out there. Pretty cool to see. Well, that's it. I just wanted to kind of try this new method where I come on here and if I'm going to scroll a little bit, try to bring you guys some news, try to bring you some ideas and some insights into what's happening out there. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you guys had a beautiful day. I'll check all the comments out there to see who was hanging out with me. And if you guys got anything out there, man, let me know. Thanks for hanging out. Aloha.